Greg, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
What shifts have you seen in the landscape in the past couple of years, and what is it that entrepreneurs are looking for from people like you at the moment?
Yeah, so I'd say just overall, the market is very healthy, right? The venture capital on a global basis is in great shape. $160 billion invested over across kind of the whole world last year, which is a great number, a record number, if you will. That's the good news. But what they look for from us, like how we support the ecosystem, is really in two ways. One is obviously on a debt basis. So what that means is when a company raises venture capital, Series A, Series B, Series C, and beyond, they want to augment that in some way. And so debt is one way to do that, and we've done that more broadly than any other institution in the entire world, and that's one of the reasons we're here at the Super Return Super Venture Conference. But secondly, what they're looking for is they want help. They want help in making connections to other investors. They want to make help in connections to other strategic partners, both in Europe or across the world, in the US, in Asia. And our network of companies, our network of employees around the world helps to facilitate that. So they're really looking for those two things.
You mentioned Asia there. You have a fairly unique relationship with China. Tell me about that and what your position is there.
Yeah, so we've been in Asia for a long period of time, so really a couple decades. But it's been about almost a decade ago that we started a joint venture, a 50-50 joint venture with PUFA, Shanghai Pudong Development Bank, where we work together to create kind of the same thing we're doing in the US. We want to do the same thing in China. And so the government's very supportive of that. The ecosystem is really building out. Going back to the number that I mentioned, out of that $160 billion of global venture capital, roughly $70 billion has been in the US, and another $70 billion actually is in Asia, mostly in China. So it's a very, very healthy market. It's been great for us, our joint venture partnership, and we're excited about the long term.
It's quite an unusual relationship there, because obviously China, the government are heavily involved, but that's not always been a negative from your point of view.
No, it's actually been a positive, because you think about what the government's role is, right? They want the same thing that companies want. They want employment, they want growth, they want GDP, all those things that innovation companies want as well, right? It's a huge market. And so if innovation companies, whether it's consumer, internet, software, hardware companies, can be successful there, the government wants that. So we're actually aligned, which is a really good place to be, and they have the resources and capabilities to support these companies and partner with venture capital and partner with banks like us to help that market be successful.
It is a very different part of the world, but how does that compare with Europe and what you're seeing there and introductions in Europe?
Yeah, so again, going back to the number I mentioned, so about $20 billion of that $160 billion is venture capital coming into Europe, and I include Israel in that as well. And it's building. If you look at the growth rate last year, both companies and the dollars were both really healthy. So we have a big practice in the UK, a practice in Israel, and it's natural for us to continue to look at Europe as it expands, right? So Europe, what is it good at? It is good at hardcore innovation in old industrial, traditional industries, and that applies to innovation companies as well, right? So we're excited about what Europe is really going to be about, I think, over the next several years. And so we expect it to continue to grow, which is why we're expanding into Europe.
So drawing on your huge wealth of experience, you've talked about being at Silicon Bank alone 20 years. So what would you say are the great opportunities ahead, and what predictions can you give us, if you like?
Yeah, so there's two parts to the question, right? So one is that almost every company, regardless of size, is an innovation company to some extent, right? You can't be an industry, you can't be a leader in any market without having innovation in your blood. So the target market for innovation is more massive than it ever has been, and it's growing at a very rapid pace. So that alone creates a lot of energy and excitement. And it's around AI, it's around machine learning, it's around consumer internet, it's around hardware solutions. So it's in life sciences. So it's not just one thing, which is what gets me so excited. It's not just the internet. It's not just software. It is this broad definition of innovation across all industries, and that's what's really spurring on this economy in a really material way, and it's going to become an increasingly large part of the market. So I'm excited about it for that reason, and it gives me a lot of optimism about the future.
And is your research base sort of right down at the university level in terms of what you're looking at and seeing in terms of innovation? Less so at the university level, although we're seeing more innovation happening at the university level, right? That's
that's good. It's really about what's happening in the venture capital market, what's happening with new company formations, and what industries they're in, how those venture capitalists are being supported. So we look at the whole landscape, all the way from that kind of seed financing, all the way up to these mega rounds of financing that we're seeing a huge number happen right now.
Now, tech has been a buzzword in finance for a while, and we've got a specific summit at this conference this year that's about disruption and innovation, if you like. What would you say about that and where we're at with embracing technology? Because tech and credit haven't always had the most comfortable relationship.
Yeah, well, just for ourselves, right? So Silicon Valley Bank, really since our inception, we've embraced technology in two ways, right? One is we're very comfortable working with technology companies. In fact, that's pretty much all we do is technology and life science companies. So we're comfortable with the losses they have. We're comfortable with thinking the wild ideas. I mean, we have a series of clients right now, which is amazing, that really are rocket companies sending satellites into space, low orbit satellites. We have like 5 of these companies around the world. And so it's satellite companies, it's all this innovation. So that's one hand, the companies we support. The second part then is how we embrace innovation as a company. And because we work with innovation companies, they expect us to be innovative in how we work with them. And so we're spending more money in investing in that area as well.
So you work with those people all the time, but do they ever surprise you about the vision and what's on the horizon?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all the time. I always tell people I have the best CEO job, bank CEO job in the world, because we get to work with these companies that truly are changing things around, right? I mean, just think about the satellite companies or the rocket companies or new hardware devices. And the life science companies are probably the most amazing because what they're doing, I mean, they truly are. I mean, curing cancer, they're curing other rare diseases, they're helping us live our lives longer. And I mean, that's pretty amazing. So that's what's probably the best part about my job, who we get to work with as clients.
What a great optimistic note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Emma.